Hello, my name is Eve and today I'm going to be trying every classic Swedish holiday dish. But that's not all. That's right, not only am I going to be taste testing some traditional Swedish classics, I'm also going to be making them from this cookbook, which is written entirely in Swedish, a language I am not confident in. This ought to go well. I've lived in Sweden for 3 years, and to be clear, I do know some Swedish. I'm just not good at it. In trying to date this book, I actually ran into some roadblocks because the foreword in this edition is written in 1980. The original copyright comes from 1960. So I'm not sure from what era each individual recipe is from. But I do know that every single recipe in here predates my birth, so I'm kind of hoping that's vintagey enough. Also, side note, Swedes tend to really load up the holiday table with all of the foods, and that includes a lot of things that you just have every day. And because I don't want to be cooking for the next 5 days, I won't be doing those. If you can order it off of a lunch menu in the middle of June, it's not a Christmas recipe, and I'm not making it today. But if you want to see me make Swedish meatballs, click subscribe and ring the bell. Probably be doing them at some point, just not today. Today it's holiday recipes only, and we have 8 recipes ahead of us. So because I don't want this video to be an hour long, we're gonna get started. With our first recipe, glögg. So glögg is a mulled wine spiced drink that you typically drink warm during the winter months, and it's been a staple in Sweden for at least the last couple hundred years, but there are recipes dating back to as early as the 1600s. It used to be that every family had their own tradition, but these days you get it at the grocery store. Now this is the non-alcoholic variety, but you can spice this up however you like. Common additives include things like red wine, port, brandy, rum, even vodka, or all of the above, depending on how much time you actually want to spend with your loved ones this holiday season. The big thing with glögg is that it's served warm, but once you add in the alcohol, you have to absolutely make sure that it does not boil, because otherwise the alcohol is just going to evaporate off and you're left with non-alcoholic glögg, which is delicious, but you just wasted several hundred kroner worth of booze, so don't do that. I know I said I wasn't to do any of the recipes for things that you can find all year round, but if I don't do this one, every Swede with an internet connection is going to find a way to crawl through their screens and eviscerate me. So, sill, otherwise known as Swedish pickled herring, which has been common in Sweden since about the 1600s, but was actually a trade staple during the medieval periods for large portions of Europe. Now there are loads of varieties of sill, and this book actually has like half a dozen different recipes for different types of sill, and it's a pretty simple process. I got this one. Yeah, I'm already eating the pickled jigglefish. I'm not making it too. I am not yet at a point in my life where I'm willing to risk food poisoning for YouTube points. Not yet anyways. My cookbook has recipes for about a half dozen varieties, everything from brännvin to onion to tomato. We have mustard because this is the one that my dad buys, and therefore this is the one that I had in my fridge. Speaking of which, I'm not making beet salad from scratch either. Partially because if I ruin my father's wood counters with a beet massacre, I will be murdered. And also, this was already in my fridge. Red beet salad's a pretty common condiment around here. Apparently it's been that way for at least the last 100 years, although some of the recipes that I've found date back to the early 1800s. Again, it's usually just pickled beets, and pickling things was a way to keep food shelf stable, so they've been doing it a while. Red beet salad. And okay, I know I haven't technically cooked anything yet, but this one I am. Janssons Temptations, or in Swedish, Janssons Frestelse. Janssons Temptation, which is apparently a warm, cream, potato, and fish pie involving 10 whole anchovies. Now, there are two stories about the origins of Janssons temptation. One of them credits it back to Peter Adolf Pelle Jansson from the 1800s, who was apparently an opera singer and professional gourmand, which means dude really liked his food. Most food historians say that that's probably not accurate and credit it to a movie by the same name. Janssons Frestelse. Frestelse? Now, apparently this just used to be a really popular dish like all year round, but ever since the 1970s, it's kind of been specifically a Christmas thing. So, warm cream potato fish gratin, but, I'm reserving judgment, okay. Caesar salad dressing, that has anchovies in it. That's pretty tasty, so I'm withholding judgment, but also the recipe I have wants 10 whole anchovies. When I say whole, I mean whole. I don't know how I feel about fish heads poking up out of my pie.
This recipe is actually pretty simple. You're going to start off with several potatoes, yellow onion, the anchovies, butter, cream, and a few spices that it doesn't actually list. Start by peeling your potatoes and then slicing them up into little matchstick shapes before dicing up your onion. Now I have to open these guys.
Okay.
Ugh.
Well, that's one personal nightmare avoided. They don't have heads.
Now the recipe wants these anchovies to go in whole, but because I'm trying to make this work, I'm actually going to dice them up, and then you layer everything up in a pan before topping with cream and your salt and white pepper, and baking for about 40 minutes until it's cooked.
Next up is kale. Yeah, that one confused me too. So in the notes under Julbord in this cookbook, it says that it's common to have a kål dish, which means cabbage. And there's a bunch of different ones in here, and it doesn't really specify which. So the options are Brussels sprouts, which are just Brussels sprouts, brunkål, which is apparently a regular white cabbage that you chop up and cook in a sugar syrup. I don't know how I feel about sugary cabbage mush. And the third option was kale. Now, in preparation for this recipe, I went out and bought some kale. And as it turns out, I don't like kale. So that's the thing, but we have it and we're gonna make it work. There were two recipes in here for kale. One is just stewed and the other one was kale soup. And I don't know what about my brain decided that hot kale water was gonna be the way to go, but apparently that's what we're doing.
This recipe only calls for a handful of ingredients, including kale, flour, butter, and spices like salt, white pepper, and a bouillon cube, and that's pretty much it. Likewise, the procedure is also relatively simple. Essentially, you're just going to hack up your little head of kale and make sure that you steam that or boil it for at least 10 minutes until it gets nice and tender. You're then going to make a roux with the flour and butter before adding the kale back into the pot and stirring over low heat for about 20 minutes until it kind of looks like pond water. Season to taste and you have kale soup. Yay.
Okay, so the hot kale water is kaling over there. And I'm not super excited about that one. I'll be honest, not excited about that one. But I am excited for this one. Julskinka. Also known as Christmas ham. So here's the thing about this book. When you go to the back and you look up Julskinka, it's on page 252, which is here. Now the problem with that, the only reference to Julskinka on this page is this little black and white picture up in the top and then a paragraph, which is not a recipe. It does have recipe for other types of ham. Ugnsbakad skinka, senapsgrillad skinka, vindbraserad skinka, glaserad skinka, kryddskinka, inbakad skinka. There's a lot of skinkas, but none of them are julskinkas. Do you tell me anything? So there are instructions on the actual ham. You are not helpful, cookbook. Actually, scratch that. The actual ham's not helpful either. Blend 1 egg and 1 teaspoon of mustard. Pensla, skinken and blandning. Combine? Brush over? I don't know. Strör över ströbröd. Cover in breadcrumbs. Bake until cooked. Bacon? How do I not get food poisoning? What's the internal temperature supposed to be? Okay. The actual ham is not helpful either. I'm gonna go back to the book and see if I can make something out of one of these other recipes and not get murdered by the Swedes for messing up Julskinka. I swear I'm trying. Well, so apparently my brilliant idea has barbecued somehow. It seems as though my plan has not worked. However, the ham underneath the charred crust seems fine. So I'm gonna tinfoil it and shove it back in the oven. Yeah, that's like 150 kroner worth of meat. I'm not throwing that out. Kale is kaling, ham is hamming, fish pie is sitting over there, so I don't have to think about it right now. Now we get into one of the desserts with the creepiest backstory, Risgrött. Risgrött is basically rice pudding or rice porridge, and I didn't think there was anything creepy about it either until I googled what happens if you don't give the tomte their pudding. So if you're not into the creepy, skip ahead to the next section, but if you are, this is a disturbing piece of holiday information that I thought was fascinating. So lately in the US, you might have been seeing these little Christmas gnomes popping up. They're not new. They're actually Swedish tomte or Norwegian nisle or nifu. They go by a bunch of different names. They were actually a sort of fae folk there, and then they are sort of like protector spirits or helper spirits for the farm, unless you piss them off. If you were having particularly good luck or if your farm had a high yield, then the tomte were looking out for you. Likewise, if your horse broke its leg, it was also the tomte and you must have done something bad. Or your neighbor did something bad and then your tomte broke his horse's leg. Point being, don't piss off the gnomes. And apparently the way that you don't piss off the gnomes is you give them porridge. Now, all that creepy backstory having been said, the recipe is actually pretty simple. It's only 5 ingredients: water, rice, milk, so it should... Yeah, I'm not doing that. I got enough stuff going on here. I don't really need a pot of boiling milk that I need to watch like a hawk for the next hour. So the recipe seems pretty simple, but if you scald the milk, it's all over. And I'm not playing that kind of Russian roulette today. All right, we're down to the last one. So we're talking about Lussekatt, which are Lucia buns or saffron buns. And saffron buns feature pretty heavily in a lot of different ways. So there are dozens of recipes. Lussekatt. Look, it was baked by someone, okay? So this little guy is reserved for dessert. Speaking of which, it's time to eat. Okay, so I have everything here. As a reminder, we have herring, red beet salad, Janssons Frestelse, Christmas ham, glögg, kale soup, and for after we do have risgrött and lussekatt. Glöggy time! There's something so deeply satisfying about glögg. It's warm and it's spice. And yes, I'm missing the alcohol just a little bit, but that'll be for after I roll this video. Skål! Oh, that's good. Now onto something I'm less excited for. A couple of these things I did cheat. I did get them at the store because I'm not making my own pickled fish. But I will eat the pickled fish. And I have a piece of knäckebröd or crisp bread to put it on because I didn't make any Oh, I liked it better when it was the other way up. Let's get some of that mustard sauce. Okay.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Oh. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I don't like pickled fish. It's not my thing. It's very briny, it's very fishy. The mustard sauce helps until you bite into it because it has a texture like a fish gusher. You bite into it and you just get like 10,000 times fish flavor. No. So I did skip ahead and I used the beet salad to help cut the flavor on the fish. So definitely a no on the pickled herring and a double yes on the beet salad. Beet salad recipe is mostly just beets and mayonnaise, but there's also a little bit of lemon in there, so it's nice and zingy. It's kind of root vegetable-y. It's good, but I knew the beet salad was gonna be good because that container was already in my fridge and I had already eaten about half of it. That was not a surprise. What is gonna be a surprise is this. We're gonna move on to the kale soup because I need a fish break and I'm not looking forward to that one. I mean, I'm not looking forward to this one either. Yep, that's kale. Okay, I like that better than I did regular kale. It's less intensely kale-y. That's not bad. Could benefit from like some bacon bits or something. Probably because I'm getting strong collard green vibes. That's okay. It's not my favorite, it's fine. Okay. Nope, I'm still not ready for you. I'm still a little traumatized from the Sill, so I'm gonna skip over to the ham. I'll be honest, kinda burnt. I tried to do something creative with the crust and it did not work, so. That's pretty good ham. There's a very thick ring of fat around it, which I don't mind. And then I also left the skin on, and I'm not sure if I was supposed to do that. Either way, it's good, it's ham. I did put a mustard crust on it, and you can't really taste that at all. Good ham though. Okay, I really don't want to do this. We're gonna give it a fair shot. It might be fine. It's potatoes and cream. It's a potato gratin. There's just, you know, a whole ass fish in there. And I did put a whole fish in there. He's here. I'm not eating him. I'm eating around him. We're trying to give this the benefit of the doubt. All right, Jansson, let's see what's so tempting about this. Okay, that's pretty good. It's not overtly fishy. It's definitely savory and umami-y, which is, I guess, what the anchovies are supposed to be doing. But it's kind of like a little bit of game of Where's Waldo, except instead of an annoying little in a red and white sweater, there's just whole chunks of fish waiting to go, surprise! I'm not super into that. So far, all the mains have been about 50-50, which means it's time for dessert. Dessert. Oh, and for the record, the non-alcoholic glögg from the grocery store does pair excellently well with just a little bit of whiskey. Okay, the Lussekatt. Yep. There's something about the saffron buns that's just so quintessentially Christmas. If you haven't had saffron in sweet things before, it can be a little jarring at first. It's bright, it's light, it's sweet, but not too sweet. And saffron can have a slightly metallic taste. Some people are very not into that. And if you go overboard in a recipe, it can kind of taste like a burnt penny, which is not the vibe, but these are delicious. Porridge time. And yes, I also cheated with the porridge, but if you want to make it yourself, I'll throw up the recipe. It's not like it's hard, it's rice pudding. I forgot it was warm. Oh, it's good rice pudding. I just forgot it was warm. I will say the warmness is kind of freaking me out a little bit, but it is good. It's creamy, it's not too sickly sweet. I put a little bit of cinnamon on mine, and it was great. Definitely going back for seconds of the saffron bun. Maybe not the rice pudding, but it was good. And that is every classic Christmas Swedish holiday dish that I could be bothered to make or buy or, you know, just have in my fridge. Overall, I'd say it's definitely a bit of a mixed bag. There are a lot of foods that I'm just not used to, pickled fish being a main theme there. But there's also a lot of new and interesting flavors that if you haven't tried them before are definitely worth a try. And now I have to do that annoying thing that all YouTubers do where they remind you that if you liked this video, you should go ahead and click the like button and leave a comment. Let me know which one your favorite one is, which one you've tried before, or, you know, if I horrifically screwed something up, let me know that too. Nicely, please. I am trying. I'm gonna be dropping videos every week for the foreseeable future, and you never know what's gonna show up next. But in the meantime, there's an entire pot full of glögg on my stove, and Kalanka starts in about 5 minutes, so god jul. Just casually dress up your children like murder victims as a Christmas celebration. Also, fun fact, Swedish meatballs aren't Swedish. The Swedish government did confirm that. They're Turkish. Is it on this page? Nope, that's just how to chop up a pig. I didn't need to see that. Didn't want to know that.